Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? Hush.
Hello, World Plays listeners, and I hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. I know that the missus and I were able to get away and finally take a little time to ourselves by the ocean. On the West Coast here in California, we had some great food and some amazing champagnes. And of course, I had some fine cigars. And that was much needed. And as much as I try to ignore the news and politics, as my wife always tells me to shut it down, turn your mind off. But it's so hard. I will say this, though. I am tired of talking about Kamala Harris. I've realized the last few episodes have pretty much been all about her and Tim Walz and the Democratic Party. And I apologize if it seems one-sided, but damn, it's so hard to ignore stupidity. But I will also say, on the other side, Trump seems to be losing his luster as of late. That being said, I'm not going to vote Democrat, and I've said that already. But we got to admit that Trump seems to be slowing down, and I don't know if he got shooken up from the attempted assassination. Very well could have. Anybody would. And J.D. Vance really isn't the superstar that he thought he was. I personally never, ever thought he was the pick. I've been very adamant about that. I really think he should have really tapped Tulsi Gabbard for that, and she would have been the much-needed injection that the Trump campaign is lacking. But with RFK seeming to be behind Trump, and I think RFK Jr. is just really siding with the party that is not entirely against him. And the reality is RFK Jr. just feels betrayed, period. And that's why he is siding with Trump, because before he didn't really have much of anything nice to say about Trump. In fact, you can say that Trump is not his vibe. But let's get away from that, because again, I'll come back to it. I'll definitely, I have to talk about the presidential candidates in the presidential race. It's only a few weeks away at this point, not that far away, maybe, less than 70 days at this point. So yeah, we will talk about that, but I need to get away from it for at least this episode, because there are times where it seems that this year's election, it really seems to be a distraction more than anything. There's been so much going on out there in the news that I haven't covered, because I feel obligated to literally just cover what's going on with the presidential race and the candidates and everything that's circling around that big shitstorm right now. But the reality is there are things going on that are not being discussed, at least not being covered by big media. And if they are, it's by their affiliate partners and not necessarily the flagship themselves, such as CBS, NBC, CNN. And what I mean by affiliates, like, you might have an affiliate CBS News Network at the local level or regional level. Let's say like CBS Sacramento, for example, or CBS Boise, Idaho, but not necessarily the flagship CBS or, NBC, for example, right? So it's not getting a lot of coverage in terms of what's going on. And what has been happening and what's been prevalent, and it's getting harder for them to hide, are the actual repercussions of open borders. Open borders, not just open borders, by the way, but unchecked borders. Because the reality is, there are very bad people getting through. There are criminal organizations getting through, because the Border Patrol can only handle so much influx at once. An open, unchecked border is dangerous for America. But nobody wants to discuss it. Everybody wants to act as if it doesn't exist. And no, it wasn't us, it was them. And they point fingers at each other because nobody wants to take responsibilities for the policies that led us here. So now I must ask, is what's going on really happening? Depending on what news article you read, it's a yes, it's a maybe, but never really a no, but definitely always a maybe. Could be, perhaps, sometimes a yes. And that was a big question mark, by the way. So what's the truth out there? Now listen, I don't want to make this whole episode about illegal immigration and illegal immigrants in general, because I've done that. I've covered it, and I'm sure everybody has heard that over and over. And you're still hearing it to some extent with the presidential election going on. But if you want to get more actual facts and data about what's going on at the border, I'm going to point you towards my episode 14. So that's World Ablaze with George Fonts, episode number 14. And that is titled Ilhan Omar May Be Anti-American and America's Border Safety Catastrophe. And there's a lot in there, a lot of facts, a lot of data, and a lot of links in the show notes to what has been going on at the border, reported by the actual Border Patrol Agency, an actual government agency, not a news organization, not some random guy on X, actual facts and actual data. And also, if you're interested, the Ilhan Omar part is absolutely interesting, as I call her out on her shit and definitely uncover a lot about her past. Again, back with facts, not just, random news articles or fake news articles and random people on X. So I highly encourage you to listen to that so that you could be more informed about our border situation. So let's move past that for now. And let's talk about the repercussions of an open border policy. Specifically, let's talk about what's been going on in Aurora, Colorado. Is it real? Are the cries by the citizens of Aurora, Colorado, nothing more than the sky is falling? Is that what they're doing? Are they telling that old tale? And if so, why would they be making up stories of violence and of being literally controlled and taken over by a very dangerous Venezuelan gang that was founded in the very dangerous prisons of Venezuela? And I will use their short name, the TDA. Their full name, I'm going to be quite honest, I'll try to pronounce it, but I really don't speak Spanish. I know my last name's Fonts, but it's more Portuguese. It's not Spanish or whatnot. So the name of this notorious gang out of Venezuela is Tren de Aragua. And for the purposes of this show, we will primarily, refer to them as the TDA, which a lot of people do. So, Tren de Aragua, and I believe I'm pronouncing that right. They are from Venezuela, and they were founded in the dangerous Venezuelan prisons. They are involved in human trafficking and other very, very nefarious acts, drug running, you name it, gun running. They're not nice people. And they are an organized, dangerous gang. They've become international at this point, or intercontinental at least. And they've taken over a good chunk of Colorado, Aurora, Colorado, to be specific. How did this story get so big? Because, the story is about them literally taking over entire apartment complexes. And not just one, but two. And as of this recording, on September 4th of 2024, there have been news reports of them taking over, or at least attempting to take over, a third. Yet, police officers, at least the police chief or interim police chief in charge, denies this. It has been said that this is just blown out of proportion. It's just isolated incidents. But if they're isolated incidents, then why is the city trying to get court orders to clear these apartment complexes with police? So there's a lot of conflicting information going on. Now, I think after reading all the news reports and trying to dig as much as I could into this, it's become quite clear that nobody wants to take responsibility for the situation. And in reading these news articles and reports and posts and watching these videos, ultimately no one's really denying it. They're trying to put a spin on what's going on, but they're not necessarily denying it. They're not denying it. So it's hard to get the truth in terms of a factual yes or factual no. It's more of a lie of omission. And they've done everything they can to sidestep and spin the story in their favor. So far, to even distract you by pointing fingers at the MAGA crowd or Republicans for blowing this whole thing out of proportion. But let's ask some of the people who live there. And there's been independent journalists who've gone down there to see for themselves and report. There's been people who live in the area just posting videos of themselves on social media to confirm. And one of the things that got this whole story into the major headlines, or at least the headlines that would be reported by at least the smaller agencies, is a video taken by a door cam or security camera in a hallway of one of the apartments that shows what looks to be 5 or 6 individuals climbing up the stairs or walking up the stairs and seeming to go door to door. In this particular case, caught them going to a single door on this video, but carrying large automatic rifles, every single one of them armed, I would say as a group definitely heavily armed, and banging on the doors and trying to get in. Now, that video was posted as proof and allegedly one of many that shows the activity that is going on in these apartment complexes. And again, it has been reported that as of this recording, that there are 3 apartment complexes that are under this type of terrorist activity by the Venezuelan gang, the TDA. They're forcing people out so they can take over these complexes to where their gangs can now have a place to live and also carry out their nefarious activities. But still, there are people that are pointing fingers at each other. No. It's just the ultra-MAGA right-wing idiots that are blowing this out of proportion. This isn't really happening in our town. Aurora, Colorado is safe. The citizens are not under any duress or stress whatsoever. But yet, the resident who filmed that video also showed how her car has bullet holes in it from a gang shootout. There are also other videos by independent reporters that show bullet holes going through buildings from front to back. And there are other reports from individuals that are saying, don't believe what you're hearing. This is really happening. One of those videos from an individual who happens to frequent Aurora and drive through Aurora confirmed by saying this on his video.
Been seeing about the stuff in Aurora, Colorado about the Venezuelan gangs taking over 2, not 1, 2 apartment complexes. Yes, it's very true. I happened to drive to Aurora today for business. Not even fucking, what time is it? Yeah, not even 3 hours ago I was in Aurora. All right, and I was right near where that shit happening. Let me tell you, man, holy shit. Let me tell you right now that this shit's no fucking joke. All right, these motherfuckers is really out here with fucking AKs, fucking guarding an apartment complex that does not belong to them. Okay? This is the Venezuelan gangs that came up here. I can't remember what the fuck their name is, but yeah, that's real. Like, the shit's getting dire. All right? I'm out here right now. Aurora, Colorado, or not Aurora, Colorado. I'm in Lakewood, Colorado, bro. All right? I'm on the opposite side of the metro area, man, but I go all the way over there for my videography. I go over there for recording shit. I go over there for all types of shit. I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm just heated about this. It's just really bad that, like, people really don't think this is happening, bro. This Venezuelan prison gang took over 2 apartment complexes in my fucking state, man. And, like, yes, it's real. It's getting real. That's why I stay with what I got. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have something like that and this shit happening, you gotta beware. That's all I'm saying. People see what you have. People see what you have when you don't looking, man, and be prepared for that shit to get taken. I mean, that might be fear-mongering, or whatever the fuck Kamala Harris want to say, but it's fear-mongering. No, it's fucking not. This is reality. right here. This is like 10 toes down in the state. So if you're wondering what's happening with Colorado, that's what's happening, all right? This ain't no fear-mongering. There are people being charged rent out in this apartment complex, bro. They called the FBI. They said they could do nothing about it. They called the state. Colorado PD. All of them, dude. No, they can't do nothing about it. Oh, and they also called the marshals, from what I hear. Nothing they can do about it, apparently. Nothing you can do about immigrants taking over an apartment complex by force?
Now, that was just one Colorado resident who was brave enough to come out and confirm what's going on. Now, I personally have not confirmed whether or not anybody has involved the FBI or called the FBI. I do know for a fact that the local police department has been called and involved. And even with that, they're still trying to spin this story and say it's being blown out of proportion. It's just right-wing MAGA Trump cultists who are trying to make this a bigger thing than it is. In fact, it's very conflicting, though, because there are news reports that on one hand will tell you that it's a bunch of bullshit, but in the same report later say they're dealing with the situation. So which is it? Is it happening? Is it not happening? If there isn't any issue going on with the Venezuelan gangs trying to take over apartment complexes, then why are you putting task forces together to handle the situation? One article that came out September 3rd from USA Today is one of those conflicting stories. In fact, the headline itself reads, "Police chief says Colorado apartment not being taken over by Venezuelan gang despite viral images." And they go on to say that the rumors of the complex being run by the Tren de Aragua, a large criminal organization from Venezuela, began circulating when a video went viral of men carrying guns and entering the apartments. The department, now hold on for this, people, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed to News Nation that the men seen in the video were Tren de Aragua members. They were members of the TDA. Hold on. I thought there wasn't a Venezuelan gang problem. If there wasn't a Venezuelan gang problem, especially coming across the border going anywhere, why is it being monitored by the Department of Homeland Security? And how is it that they were able to confirm in the viral video that those individuals were actually members of the TDA? Now, if that's not conflicting in and of itself, I mean, especially in a story that is meant to debunk the seriousness of the situation, then why is it being reported that Homeland Security is confirming these individuals? And why would it be in this news article anyway? It goes on to read, the city of Aurora confirmed in an X post on August 30th that there is a small TDA presence in Aurora. So there you go, more downplaying. Not denying, but downplaying, spinning. So they have confirmed there is a presence, there is an issue, but now it's small, not a big deal. All right, let me stop interrupting and read this a bit more. So again, the police department has been taking it seriously. There has been a lot of misleading information shared about what is happening in our city. Aurora is a safe community. Media have conflated and considerably exaggerated incidents that are isolated to a handful of problem properties. You mean a handful such as 3 entire apartment complexes? I mean, there's a difference between trying to just say a property as in maybe a house versus a property that is a commercial apartment complex. I mean, I'm sorry, but, a 3-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house versus, a 50 to 100 and something room complex, not really the same thing here. So again, more downplaying, but let's just call it what it is. So let's replace property with apartments. So moving on, city officials said they will address the problems that the absentee out-of-state owners of these properties have allowed to fester unchecked. So they're going ahead and saying there's a problem, but it's small and it's isolated to a few properties, but those properties just happen to be actual apartment complexes. And now they're pointing the fingers at the actual owners of the complexes. Well, that's pretty fucking stupid, because how are the owners of the complex going to battle an entire Venezuelan gang armed with automatic weapons, very organized, and have instilled terror and wreaked havoc across Venezuela, as well as other countries south of the border, including Colombia? They're very akin to the Mexican drug cartels. These are not people to be messed with. They specialize in human trafficking, drug running, gun running, and other acts, even up to kidnapping and terrorism itself. So you tell me how pointing the finger at the owners of this apartment complex or these properties and trying to pin it on them as the people who allowed this to happen is going to fix anything. What are these owners of the complex going to do? Well, they would call law enforcement, the very law enforcement that is apparently trying to downplay the situation and act as if there is nothing going on. In other articles I read, there have been residents who have called 911 repeatedly for the violence and the gunshots, and just seeing individuals actually just carrying large automatic rifles around. But the police will not respond. In fact, they've told residents that to respond to these types of situations, they would need 3 to 4 officers together. And they say that to do so would pull resources away from other areas. Hold on. What kind of answer is that? You're being asked to respond to individuals with full automatic rifles, walking around, shooting each other, harassing people who live in these apartment complexes, and you're afraid of pulling resources? It sounds like you have a priority situation on your hands that you're refusing to respond to. Maybe you're just, admit it, scared to respond. And I can understand that. The average police officer isn't trained or equipped to handle this type of situation, which is why you have SWAT teams and the National Guard and, other specialized organizations who could handle this. But even then, that is not being administered as a solution. No SWAT teams being called, no National Guard being called in either. Yet we have now 3 apartment complexes that have fallen under the control of this dangerous Venezuelan gang. And as far as conflicting reports and information go, what's crazy is there is a CBS News report that came out that actually confirmed what was going on. They saw the video, they went out, and they wanted to know, is this real? I'm going to read from that article. Now, there was also a video attached to this, but it was kind of hard to get the audio working well, so I'm just going to read the actual news article. Hang with me because I'm going to read a bit of it, okay? So here we go. For Cindy Romero, living at 12th Avenue and Dallas Street has become a daily struggle against escalating violence and neglect. Life deteriorated into a nightmarish ordeal marked by frequent encounters with crime and what she calls a lack of support from the city and police. She first noticed a gradual increase in crime in her part of the Denver metro area about 1.5 years ago. It got worse over the last 3 months. She says, "We were constantly forced to take measures to protect ourselves. I installed more locks, bought additional cameras, and parked further away from the building. Despite all these efforts, the situation kept escalating. We felt like we were being tortured." She reported seeing people move automatic weapons and engage in shootouts. She says, "I've seen handguns, rifles with scopes, and other firearms. It got so bad that bullets even went through my friend's apartment and hit my car." Despite frequent calls to 911, the police response was nearly non-existent. The police would call me and say they weren't coming unless it was a severe crime. Romero said, "When I called the police to report a shooting, one officer asked if I had considered moving. If I could have afforded to leave, I would have." All right, so let's hold on there. The response from the police is, why don't you just move? People are breaking the law. You're hired to protect and serve, and you tell the person trying to report the crime and get help, that they should just move. So, as I said earlier, are the police scared to respond? Do they just not want to get involved? Huh. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Romero installed multiple cameras that captured violent activity over weeks. Doorbell video shows a group of armed men forcing their way into her neighbor's home. Another night, her camera outside captured 2 men approaching a vehicle with guns drawn. Romero goes on to say, "You are elected to protect your constituents. You fundraise off your promises, yet you left us to die." After a shootout on August 18th, Romero was driven to desperation, and this week her pleas for help were finally answered by Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky. Jurinsky was the only one who really took an interest in our safety and worked to find solutions. It meant a lot to have someone genuinely concerned. Jurinsky helped her move out and find other housing. "I went in myself to help people move out," she says. "There was a large police presence, and at one point, a gentleman charged up the stairs after me. It was an eerie feeling. Even as I was helping people move out, others were moving in right in front of me." Jurinsky first became aware of the escalating gang activity shortly after a large gathering in Aurora related to the Venezuelan election. People were saying that individuals were patrolling their properties with guns and walking through their buildings. They called the police repeatedly, but the response was lacking. According to her, police leadership had instructed officers that a minimum of 3 to 4 officers, see, this is just what I said earlier. So 3 to 4 officers were needed to respond to such situations. If those numbers weren't available, officers were told not to respond. Okay, I'm going to leave that article. There's a lot more in there, but again, conflicting information. So what's the truth? You have an official from the city now confirming, because she went there personally to witness what was going on and gave you firsthand experience. And you have the resident living in the apartment complex. There was a video earlier I played of a man who drove through that area or frequents that area to also say that, yes, this is really going on. But then you get a news report like this from, and again, they're very, very much left-leaning, but it shouldn't be politicized. But I'm going to read some of what they're saying, because I think it's important for people to understand that in dire situations like this, where citizens of America, even legal residents of America, are being harassed and terrorized by illegal gangs, that its government needs to step in. Its police force needs to step in. But of course, Newsweek being Newsweek, well, here we go. Headline reads, "Colorado paper hits back at Venezuela gang claims." And then in parentheses, "enough." Okay, so this was published September 3rd, so pretty recent. And it goes on to say, an op-ed in a Colorado newspaper hit back at what it called Venezuelan gang hysteria, perpetuated by dodgy politicians. Former President Donald Trump and local politicians, including Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman, recently said that the apartment buildings in the city of Aurora had been taken over by migrants. Last Thursday, a video reportedly showing armed members of a Venezuelan gang inside an apartment complex circulated on social media. That's funny that they said that. They stated last Thursday the video reportedly showing armed members. It was, in another article, confirmed that Homeland Security identified those members or those people in that photo as actual members of the TDA. So far, there is a lie, and again, another attempt at trying to politicize a very bad situation where there shouldn't be politics involved at all. It's just about protecting your citizens who are crying out for help, because you were put into office, and these organizations are funded by taxpayer dollars to protect the citizens and enforce the law. But anyway, let me keep reading. The clip shows a group armed with rifles and handguns inside the edge of Lowry Apartments in Aurora. It says Fox 31 in Denver had reported. It was captured shortly before a shooting at the complex that left one person seriously injured, the owner of the video had said. And then says multiple politicians have since called out Venezuelan gang activity, which the newspaper, The Sentinel, called a grisly attempt at terrorizing Aurora residents in hopes of swaying voters to back anti-immigrant candidates and causes. I'm sorry, but are you sickened by this article so far? I mean, is it time to really politicize a terrorist act against residents of the United States of America? Really? This is the time you're going to take the opportunity to point fingers at far right conservatives, Republicans, taking things out of context and trying to stir up hysteria and terrorize citizens. Like, really? This is laughable. But the reason I'm going to keep reading, because the conflict in information, or the conflicting information, continues. So Dave Perry, senior editor at the liberal-leaning outlet, wrote, "Enough. Aurora residents have had enough of their community and some of the most vulnerable people among us being made dangerously into pawns for a despicable right-wing political farce." So nothing like a far-left politician trying to politicize a moment of tragedy and terror. Of course, why not take the opportunity? Because, democracy's on the line, right? But as you read on in this article, and the reason I'm reading this is because you're going to see the conflicting information. You're going to hear it anyway. It goes on to read, "Meanwhile, Kaufman wrote in a post on Facebook that the city was waiting for a municipal judge to issue a court order which would return control to the property owners." Now, Kaufman is the mayor of the city. So they're waiting on a court order to return the control of the property to the owners. Which means what? The apartments are under control of the fucking Venezuelan gangs. I mean, I'm sorry. Can we not do math? 2 + 2 is 4, right? I thought it still was. Anyway, goes on to read, the problems associated with Venezuelan gang activity has been isolated to properties that are all under the same out-of-state ownership, whose problems with code violations and criminal activity preceded the migrant crisis. And of course, this was said by Kaufman also, but in that statement themselves, again, more politicizing, right? Whether this person's right-wing or left-wing, pointing fingers at the owners of the complex. The owners can't do anything about a Venezuelan gang coming over and taking control of their fucking property. Like, come on. Are we still trying to not take responsibility? And I'm nodding my head yes, because that's exactly what the administration of Aurora, Colorado is trying to do. But they're not denying that there's a bad thing going on here. They're not denying that they've lost control to the Venezuelan gangs. They're just trying to downplay it and spin it and point the fingers at others so that they don't look so bad. But they are. They are, in fact, bad. They're doing a horrible job. They're not doing anything to rein this in and protect their citizens. It took up until a viral video got out for them to respond, because now it's in the media. Now they have to do something. And even then, they could have responded in kind with the National Guard to take care of the situation, but they're not. They're going through the process, the red tape, the bureaucracy, and waiting to get permission to respond. I mean, how ridiculous is this? How ridiculous is that? So as a resident of Aurora, Colorado, as a resident of the United States of America, your government has no concern in protecting you unless it makes them look bad in the media. And that's why we have to go ahead and rely on brilliant independent journalists such as Savannah Hernandez. This brave woman goes out and really gets in the shit. She really goes in and tries to find out what's going on. I would encourage everyone, if you have an X account, to follow her at sav_says_ Savannah Hernandez. I'm going to play a clip from her that just came out September 3rd, and she literally went down there. She flew down there to the apartment complex to see what's going on. Here we go.
All right, y'all, so we are outside of that apartment complex that has been in the news all week for allegedly being overrun by Tren de Aragua. Now, the East Colfax Community Collective, which is a communist-aligned group, was saying that actually this area is completely safe, that there's no gang members. This, of course, comes after the city is calling to evict people out of this building and shut it down because of the violence. Now, the migrants are saying the area is safe, that there's no gang members at all. The communist group saying the exact same thing, but we're surveilling the area, and as you guys can see, the actual building has bullet holes. Okay, this bullet hole actually goes all the way through to the other side. We were able to tour the area. There's multiple broken windows as well. So it seems like the building is telling a different story, and we are going to try to talk to residents in the area because I have seen differing narratives surrounding this specific apartment complex and Tren de Aragua.
So in this video, she does show some residents standing around. But interestingly enough, why is there a communist-aligned group out there kind of protesting and saying there's nothing going on, there's no gang activity, and even the residents are grouping together saying, oh, no, it's good, it's safe, there's nothing happening here, no reason to look. You know why they're saying these things? They're fucking scared. They're scared. You got a violent criminal organization taking over your area. You can't move. You're stuck to your community that you live in because you're invested in it. And let's just be honest, not everybody has the resources to just pick up and run. What else are they going to do? Report on the news that, yes, they're harassing me and that the gangs are really coming after us? Guess what's going to happen? They're going to end up dead the next day or within the next few hours after the news trucks run away. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's not be naive about that report or that situation. That's the only reason they're saying there isn't anything going on. Because all reports literally point towards the Venezuelan gangs taking over. And if there isn't anything happening and everything's all hunky-dory, as they say, then why are they, big air quotes, people evicting everyone in the building? They're clearing the building out. And an eviction is laughable because you're just going to get met with firepower. You're going to knock on the door and get a big old freaking double-barrel shotgun in your face because these gangs don't fuck around. They're not playing. And if they're that dug in and already have a third apartment complex, you have literally got an issue. You've got an issue that has gotten out of control and that you have not taken the initiative to control. And all the blame goes to the government of Aurora, Colorado, and the governor of Colorado themselves. Why hasn't the governor stepped in and taken control? I mean, at this point, you would expect that the governor would step in, especially when local law enforcement is scared to respond. The city administration has done fuck all. And the only person that can call in the National Guard would be the governor. But no. It's all right-wing propagandists making this a bigger thing than it is. Ignore the bullet holes, ignore the gunshots, the murders, the dead people, the scared residents. Oh, and the property owners who no longer have control of their buildings. Forget about all that. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Because it's not Colorado's fault. It's just right-wing MAGA Trump cultists. Got it. Understood. Again, let's take a moment to politicize. And while we're trying to politicize, how about another video? Because what's interesting about Colorado, it's a sanctuary state, just like California. I live in California, so I can tell you that being a sanctuary state is not all it's, made out to be. Here's a video I'm going to play now. This video I don't believe comes from Colorado, but what is said by this police officer in response to a crime is important to hear and may shed a little bit of light on why nothing's going on or why nothing has been done in Colorado. Take a listen to this.
We'll grab his information and see what we can do, but like I said,
can you please collect the information? He said that he's already illegal. He already said that he went to...
Okay, hold on, let's back up a little bit. First off, we're a sanctuary city. Even if he is legal here, we cannot call ICE.
Okay, but you still have to report that, right?
No, we don't, because it's a sanctuary city. We do not report illegal undocumented.
So you're going to let a person who went to prison, he committed a crime in America, who's illegal right now, you're going to let him go free right now to this elevator?
That's exactly what I'm saying, because we're a sanctuary city. I've arrested a double homicide suspect in this city before and let him walk out the door because we're a sanctuary city. We're not going to call ICE to come pick him up and deport him.
He came to pick up $320,000 from your, him, or mine grandmother and grandfather, and he's walking away freely right now, right? That's what I'm understanding right now.
I understand that, but you're asking me to call ICE or the...
I'm not asking you to call ICE. We're just asking you to take seriously that he's trying to repeat offend when he's already illegal.
He flew
repeating
from
what
New
he's
York.
already been doing.
He said, I'm in Chinatown in New York. They pay for his...
So hold on. A sanctuary city, sanctuary state, the law enforcement can't do anything? That doesn't make any sense. Whether you're a legal or illegal immigrant, person, or even a citizen of the U.S., how is it that you can commit a crime and just be let go? I mean, the officer even states he arrested someone who committed a double homicide but had to let them go because they're in a sanctuary city. Is that what's going on in Colorado, in Aurora, Colorado? Is that why they won't respond? And if this is true, then why is Homeland Security able to identify the people that were in the video trying to take over the apartment, or at least kick in the door and harass the people that were in the apartment complex that was being filmed from the security footage? I mean, why is Homeland Security monitoring these people if it doesn't matter, and they should just be let go because, hey, you know, they have a right to commit murders and various crimes, and it's okay? I'm coming to the conclusion that the government really does hate its citizens. I think the government really doesn't give a fuck about us. And so, should citizens start really trying to protect themselves? I mean, should they go to those lengths? Maybe this is one of the reasons that, you know, the Second Amendment needs to stay in place so that citizens can actually not just protect themselves against a tyrannical government, but against these crazy acts of terrorism and violence. Now, I'm not advocating for vigilante justice. I know that's probably what some of you people were thinking. But in a situation where you're cooking your dinner and then you get your door kicked in and you're greeted by 4 individuals with automatic rifles and you're told to vacate, what do you think you should be doing? Just being a complicit, good person with open arms, accepting of all people? I mean, I'm sorry, but that is a straight up invasion, an invasion on your life, an invasion on your livelihood, a threat to your actual life. And you're just supposed to stand by and let it happen? Isn't this why the government gets our money and taxes? Isn't this why the government exists, to protect its citizens? Why are they ignoring this situation? And so, with that being said, there are suddenly rumors of other other dangerous gangs coming in to save the day. And supposedly, the Hells Angels were headed out to Aurora, Colorado. And, you know, there's a few things I'd like to say on that. Now, firstly, whether or not the Hells Angels actually did go, I mean, I'm going to be quite honest, that was unconfirmed. But the reality is, if they were showing up, they weren't doing so out of the kindness of their hearts. Okay? Now, and I can dive into the one percenters, the biker gangs, the Hells Angels. I mean, that is a whole nother episode. That, you know, this isn't time and place for that. But I want to make people aware. I want them to be aware that if you're so desperate, if you're so terrorized and so fearful of what's happening that you are pumping your fist and cheering on a rival gang, I'm talking about some pretty dangerous individuals, to come in and save your ass, then I think we've lost our country. We just may very well have lost our country. Now, I'm going to play a clip from an alleged one percenter. And for those who don't know what a one percenter is, a one percenter refers to someone who's a member of a sanctioned biker gang. Now, air quotes, motorcycle club. But people that are part of these organizations are honestly just gang members. But they're dangerous, very dangerous, and they're organized, and there's levels to it. And there are a lot of layers to the onion to peel back. They go so far as to have PR campaigns in place, such as toy runs, where they raise money and give toys to children during Christmas and things like that. And yes, they do good for the communities and they protect their own, but once you get beneath those layers, they're a criminal organization. They run drugs. They're right out there prostituting women. They're selling weapons. They're doing everything that you would think an organized criminal organization would do. They go so far as to even have the upper layers where they have assassins that literally work for the club. And that is their sole purpose, is to basically get rid of people. Now, I'm not going to say one way or the other which organizations do this or pin this on anybody, but this is known information. So I'm not saying anything that's going to get me into trouble or anyone into trouble if you even repeat this, because it's known. And I'm not going to say anyone's actual name or anything like that. Okay? I'm not. But truth is truth. And so if we're relying on biker gangs to come save citizens from what could be very well a rival gang who's also extremely dangerous and militarized in their actions and in their armaments, then again, we've lost our country. So let me play this video by this alleged one percenter and get his take on what is going on with the Hells Angels allegedly, and again, I'm saying allegedly, going out to Aurora, Colorado.
Are the Hells Angels going to Colorado? So I've been riding all day, guys, and I am not a Hells Angel. I'm not with HA. I am with a 1% club. Here's what I will tell you, guys. Everybody wants to know, is it true? Is it true? Are the Angels going to Colorado? Here's all I'm going to say. If a 1% club like the Hells Angels were to decide to get involved in whatever's going on in Colorado, it wouldn't be because you got on TikTok and you asked them to do it. No, it wouldn't be because the mayor or some congressman said, hey, can you guys come over here and help us? It's not how it works. The only way on God's green earth that HA or any other 1% club would be going to Aurora, Colorado to do anything, the only reason they would be doing that is if one of their own got fucked with. Y'all didn't fuck with one of the HAs up there, did you? Ooh, listen. It's really not a good idea. If one of their family members, a good friend of the club, a mother, one of their old ladies, if HA is on their way there, and I'm not HA at all, it's because somebody messed with one of their own. That'd be the only reason they'd do it. And if that happened, if they did that, if they are headed that way, I'm going to just highly recommend that you guys go ahead and clear out. Just whoever it was that did whatever you did to piss off the 1%ers here in America. This is not Venezuela. This is not Brazil. This is not whatever country you came from. Up here, things really are done differently. And you don't want to stand in the way. If you pissed off HA to the point where they got on their motorcycles and they're all headed to Colorado, yeah, now the news won't even talk about it when it's all said and done. Nope. We'll know. People that know will know. But the news won't talk about it.
Okay, so this guy, and I'm not going to say how I know, but I'm just going to say this. This guy's right. And what he's right about is, look, an organization like the Hells Angels, they've been around for a long time. They're international. They have hundreds of chapters. They're not going to expose themselves or get themselves into a crazy gun battle with other well-armed individuals for no reason. Okay, and they're definitely not doing it because someone posted a video, and they're definitely not doing it because the government asked them to, and the government never would. Okay, they're a known criminal organization as well. Sorry to say that, but it's true. They're on the FBI list. They've been monitored, but at least in America, there's very little about them in terms of gang warfare and whatnot. It happens every once in a while, and usually the fights are among other 1% clubs, other biker gangs. It usually doesn't involve your everyday citizen or your average person anyway. So the reality is you don't want the HAs coming to save you, because if they're coming to save you, they're not really coming to save you. They're coming to take care of the problem, and they do it in a big way. And yes, there will be explosions, there will be rocket launchers, there will probably even be tanks, as it happened overseas before. And it happened in Canada, and it happened, I believe it was Sweden. I think it was Sweden where they had a huge blowout against a rival gang. And it was basically just like sending in the Marines against another army. It was not pretty. It wasn't just, here's a handgun and bang the guys down and it's over. No. That's not how these things are handled. So this is not what we want. This rumor needs to be squashed, okay? And don't celebrate it, because the reality is we want law enforcement doing their jobs. If a club like the HA were to get involved, it literally is because of two things. They literally fucked with one of their own, just like this guy said. Or what he didn't say, which is also very true, is they're encroaching on their territory. That this Venezuelan gang overstepped the boundary. And that would be the only other reason that the HA would be getting together in a large group. Now, I'm very sure that a group like the HAs are already monitoring these people. I mean, they have a club right down there in Colorado. So I think that's enough of the Hells Angels. I don't want to make this all about the Hells Angels. To be honest, it's an interesting topic, and it's something that I can talk about. But this isn't about the Hells Angels. This is about the Venezuelan gangs being unchecked, by citizens being unprotected by their own government, by their own law enforcement. Because, let's be honest, the law enforcement down there is scared to engage. And can you blame them? I mean, is an average police officer really equipped or in the mental state to go and handle 20, 30 individuals with automatic rifles who have no problem dying for their cause, the cause of whatever the gang tells them is their cause? I mean, no. Of course they're scared. They don't want to say they are, but they are. But where does that leave the citizens? Where does that leave the Americans, the people that are living in Colorado? To just figure it out? Is this the America that we're supposed to expect moving forward? Is this the America that we're supposed to live in moving forward? I mean, it's like an apocalyptic movie. It's like it's turning into an apocalyptic movie. I don't have any answers for this situation. There is not a solution I see outside of the government really growing, a big pair of balls and actually doing their jobs. And if we have to send in the National Guard, then so be it. Send them in. I don't want to put anybody at risk. I don't want anybody to die. But they took up the oath, and they chose to be the protectors and to go in and handle these situations if they ever need to. And unfortunately, as much as we don't need this, you got to fight fire with fire here. Now, it's either the National Guard gets called in or they send in some highly specialized task force to just take care of it. They got to round all these people up, get rid of them. And stop pointing fingers. Take some fucking responsibility. Take some responsibility for your actions, for your policies, for how you handle this and how you even got it to this point. Blaming the owners of the properties for the unchecked rise in Venezuelan gang activity is cowardice. It really is. You're a coward. You will not own up to your own situation that has been created by your own administration. Aurora, Colorado is actually in trouble. And there's rumors that these Venezuelan gangs are headed out to Chicago or have been in Chicago trying to do the same thing. Now, again, this is unconfirmed. Just like the Hells Angels going to Aurora, Colorado. I just played this video because it was a rumor. But I have to say, I haven't seen anywhere where the Hells Angels themselves are basically denying it. But I'm also not saying that it's true. I use that video as an example of the fact that people are so desperate that they would rather have another criminal organization come in and save them. And as far as Chicago is concerned, those rumors are going around. As of this recording, I don't know if it's really happening. But just as the rumors in Colorado were said to be untrue, yet now proven to be true and admitted by their own police forces down there to be true. Maybe the police force down there is trying to downplay it, but again, they've got task force now to handle the situation. So if those rumors became true, and we're now hearing rumors of the same thing going on in Chicago, maybe we should be paying attention to what's going on in Chicago. And maybe we need to be paying attention as to if this is not a coincidence, but an actual intentional behavior by this Venezuelan gang to start taking over sections of the U.S. for their own gain. They're also very prevalent in New York. And I didn't even talk about New York, but it's confirmed that they have been in New York. And I don't know if they're taking over apartment complexes, but they're definitely running their criminal organizations out there. So with that being said, I think I'm going to take us out. This episode is really about bringing attention to a dire situation and how our government is just really not taking responsibility and stepping up to protect its citizens. So where does that leave us? I honestly don't know. I really don't know. But I will say this. Please vote accordingly. And again, please like, share, and spread the word of World Ablaze.
I wanna taste your content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell.